We all carry burdens and pains. More often than not, we don't share our problems outwardly. In most places, we're told to take this weight and just put up with it or bury it because we're supposed to power through our feelings and simply not be bothered by insults, by the jerks on the internet. They say, don't get help. If you need help, it's because you're weak. Get over it. You're sensitive. You're soft. You need to have tough skin, some say, and I confess that I've said it too, but I'm wrong. Telling people to toughen up is to say that reaching out for help makes you not tough. We're shaming people who want and deserve help, these people who struggle with mental health. And yet we give a pass to let jerks be jerks. That's the kind of world you and I live in. That's the kind of world that Byron Bernstein and many others have left. We can all do better. It starts by reassuring our friends and our loved ones, even the people that we look up to, that it's okay to feel vulnerable and that we're ready to listen. That small gesture is a huge investment into the human spirit.
Hey Soul, do you think we can talk later?
Yes.
Yay!
Hey, it's Soul, and welcome back to another episode of Warcraft Weekly, the thing that you actually clicked the thumbnail for. It's a new month, meaning that I can share a really big victory for the Brutosaur party on Twitch, because the subs that they generated throughout June turned into a $560 donation to organizations like the NAACP and the Anti-Defamation League, and thanks to some employee matching shenanigans, I was able to double it. Yes! So a great job to the team, and a big thanks, of course, to the patrons, including newcomers Noob Taco, Paul, and Verasimi. Time for some news, starting with some non-news. Next week is the hotly anticipated livestream with executive producer John Haidt and WoW game director Ian Hazzikostas, shown here from a recent Zoom meeting, where they will, with little doubt, announce the Shadowlands launch date, the beta announcement, that you got an invite, and even talk about future content like the Nathanos patch you always wanted to have. The stream happens this coming Tuesday, June 8th at 9 a.m. Pacific, which conveniently is while I stream. So tune in here for some fresh reactions, some commentary, and me being like, really? We waited all this time for that? Okay. In some classic news, Blizzard announced the upcoming launch of Phase 5, the AQ event, that's going to take place July 28th, so get ready to once again be baffled at how quickly old content gets absolutely bulldozed. In the meantime though, Blizzard has been very busy with killing off bots, banning 40,000 WoW accounts since mid-June, and probably more as we get closer to the AQ launch. This does make me wonder, how many of those accounts were strictly designed for farming resources to progress past the whole war effort phase? And how long is it going to be until Blizzard is like, screw it, let's just do a WoW Classic token in the West? After many years and many dollars in paid character transfers, Blizzard has finally announced that they will initiate a new round of realm connections over the next 2 to 3 months, meaning we can at least speculate that the Shadowlands pre-patch is going to drop shortly after these connections are finally complete. According to what they've called a comprehensive study, they decided that the best way to merge them is to take low-pop realms and merge them with other higher population realms. So it's this, instead of, say, taking all of the low-pop realms and merging them into this unrecognizable smorgasbord, or nuking low-pop realms entirely and forcing these refugees to do name changes.
But I like being on my quiet server.
Really? Does everyone on your quiet server agree with you?
I don't know, I don't talk to any of them.
So that's nice. You know what would be nicer? Adding a brand new, revolutionary feature unheard of in MMOs. Last names. I think it would be cool to have SoulSoBreezy
Or Bob McBobberbob.
What about Bobberden?
Nope.
Summer gaming sales are in full swing, which means, yeah, we're barely into the second half of 2020. But anyway, Blizzard put out a bunch of digital products on sale, including BFA for only $20.
Does that mean I can buy cheap character boosts for my main account?
No, not really.
Boo.
okay, I could sort of explain how, but do you really want like a level 110 boost for only 45 bucks?
Level 110. After this, I'm going back to the Alpha. Alpha is graded here, by the way, suckers. Haha, 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 haha.
Let's talk about the Alpha. This week's build did not feature a huge singular thing like a zone, but if jewelry for Horde High Elves is what you've been waiting for since the Burning Crusade, then alright, this is it. This is your time. They also released Exile's Reach for the Horde, aka faction propaganda, but, well, for the rest of us, small things. Let's run through them. Combat potions are going to behave very differently in Shadowlands. With the exception of health potions that are still on a 1 minute, once per encounter cooldown, combat and utility potions will share a 5-minute cooldown. The trade-off is that you can use them multiple times per encounter, which means that the short window for quote pre-potting will no longer be a thing. Just don't forget to actually use the pots, prisoners of Warcraft.
You don't use pots either.
Shut up.
You don't even make any more, you cheap ass.
The reactions are, as usual, mixed, especially among the Mythic Plus crowd who regularly go through cooldown and visibility pots like I go through coffee. My concerns are more with the player economy and what the dip in potion consumption is going to mean for the alchemy sector. But will herbalism be effective? That's a good question. On the crafting side of things, scribes will be able to make runes that crafters will need to customize the stats on crafted gear. There are also oils for alchemists, weapon stones for blacksmiths, and temporary armor kits for leatherworkers to consider in this whole encounter prep meta. Money is still going to move, of course, but no doubt this is going to feel a little bit awkward. It's a change, and who likes change, right? But I'll be interested to see the reliance on certain professions be spread and shift around a little bit. Speaking of Mythic Plus, Blizzard made a small change to the tyrannical effects in Mythic Plus to not increase the health of adds in boss encounters, only the boss itself. Now, we all know that I ain't got skin in the game when it comes to Mythic Plus. I'm an outsider. But as an outsider, I've got to agree with the very one-sided Wowhead comments this time around. What's the point of tyrannical or fortified? I mean, there's already a scaling difficulty with the key level, cool. The higher the level, the more health and damage that the whole dungeon has. This is very straightforward. Tyrannical and fortified just add levels to the boss or the trash on top of everything else, and that's it. Speaking for me, again as an outsider, I imagine that the complexity of Mythic Plus between the two affixes, the seasonal affix, and the infinite scaling is enough. Right? What would the removal of tyrannical and fortified really do? Would it make dungeons seem too easy? Okay, if so, then just increase the multiplier for each key level. And if people want to go higher, shoot, let them. Alpha testers want to climb Torghast as high as they can. Let them. Let players push Mythic Plus until the key level breaks the dungeon logic, alright? The inclusion of Tyrannical and Fortified changes up the challenge, but I don't think this change up is very interesting. But I'm sure I'm missing something. Dungeon people, please feel free to comment and share your thoughts. It appears that legendary customization is going to be a bit more restricted than first thought. Information uncovered by the data mining beasts at Wowhead revealed that each legendary affix can only be attached to just 2 kinds of armor, and instead of all of them. This draws a few conclusions. One is that Blizzard lied. The horror. This change is going to have an impact on both player behavior and the economy. Think about it. Let's pretend that legendary gear can have their secondary stats customized to whatever you want. So Bob, what equipment slot are you going to craft?
Deck, maybe the rig, whatever comes first, but it's pretty obvious.
Yeah, and there you have it. Spreading legendaries across equipment slots, but at least having a second option to where a given power can be attached expands the viability of crafting professions.
The power of Absolute Zero can only be contained in this all-powerful medallion. Or these wrists. Please take your time in deciding. We're open until 9.
I mean, I get it. Blizzard said something, and now it's being walked back. But it's less joke and more reality that players will slot their legendary powers on the equipment slot that sim the highest. And anyone who doesn't is just a filthy role player. And that, in my opinion, is the opposite of choice. With this change, players will still likely make an optimal choice, but the diversity now means that no one slot or no one profession is going to be effectively locked down. But maybe there's a middle ground, right? Maybe 2 choices are too few. You get it? I did the play on, yeah, okay, but never mind. But so maybe 3 or 4 choices gives a bit more agency. Like maybe I want a legendary affixed to my chest because that gives me a lot of primary stat or something. But as always, I invite you to chime in. This build also introduced a much more complete picture of Soulbinds, where most of our simming and hair pulling is going to take place. The Blizzard livestream and alpha build next week is going to probably take up production time, but if I can, I'm going to talk about Soulbinds again next week. In the meantime, I invite you to take a look at what I talked about in a video from a few weeks ago, but now we can pretty much 90% confirm one big thing about Soulbinds and Conduits, that they will not affect class Covenant abilities. They will affect the Covenant signature abilities in pretty cool ways, I think, but for now, my fan of shields will always be just a fan of shields. I see Soulbinds as a customizable talent row. Each selection has traits to differentiate from each other and has powerful conduit slots with 3 types: utility, survival, and throughput. There's also an uneven number of conduit slots per soulbind, meaning that each soulbind has 1 more conduit of each type than the others. So in this example, Pelagos, who is a man, has 3 throughput, 2 utility, and 2 survival conduit slots. Meanwhile, Clea has 3 survival, 2 throughput, and 2 utility slots. My opinion, but the difference of 1 conduit slot doesn't automatically mean that 1 soulbind is going to be hamstrung to a certain role, because you also need to choose a path to go down. You don't just get everything. This is deep and complicated, and it's bound to confuse players at first. This is the system that I've been wanting to test from the very beginning, if you recall me saying, okay, well that and Torghast, so 1 out of 2 ain't so bad, but this is critical. I'm excited to play around with conduits and soulbinds, and maybe it's me, but I don't see a clear winner among the soulbinds except for Theotar, who makes all your transmog costs free. Easy. But my concern goes back to what I was talking about with these legendary slots. There are going to be many people out there who will look at all this stuff and feel overwhelmed to the point where they would rather wait for someone else to just tell them which covenant to pick, how to slot their soulbinds, and call it a day. This concern is just an opinion, by the way, so feel free to disagree, but there's an effective argument that we as players just want to pick up and play, and not feel bogged down with having to figure things out, mapping this, testing that, grinding for the things that we need to make our characters what they need to be. I've said as much too, and have celebrated the moments where Blizzard lifts some of that grind away, like yay, we can spend less time preparing our characters and more time playing them. But with conduits as such a deep system that's going to alter our gameplay, I hope that getting the pieces together, that is, the gathering up of conduits and powering up soulbinds, is reasonably grind friendly. That way, we have more time to play with the pieces and experiment. Part of the reason why there's a grumbling that WoW feels like less of an RPG is that the mystery has been distilled and thrown into a sim. There are guides and videos, and I've made my share that tell you exactly what to do. That takes away a lot of the community and the roleplay feel, because you're not feeling your way through, you're just following directions. But it's not as easy as taking away sims and advanced combat logs and all the transparency that Blizzard allows. No one wants to be so willfully ignorant in the face of easy access to information. At the same time, we have the multiple grinds that have always been around in one shape or another, from rep to attunements, quests, and currencies and more, which has also been broken down to the path of least resistance. But there's an audience for that, and I respect it. My hope is that Shadowlands challenges players to figure things out for themselves, and gives them more time to test and experiment with these pieces rather than grinding to get said pieces and then not having enough time, so you end up looking up the sim to tell you the answer already. We're getting a taste of this now, with the current iterations of essences, corruptions, and the end of Titanforging. We're going to learn more next week, so tune into the stream on Tuesday so we can bitch about it. And that's the show. Boy, oh boy. This week has been marred by tragedy that's no one's fault, but it's also our shared responsibility to acknowledge it and to reflect. I feel bad putting the community's tributes to Byron's life towards the end of today's show because as beautiful as the outpouring is, I think I'm irrationally scared about how this almost romanticizes putting an end to your own life. Byron was a person who struggled, who was supported by love and success and fame, and he's gone. And the last thing that I want is for this to be a thought on someone's mind when looking over the edge as if there's no hope. Instead of platitudes, I'll just offer myself to be someone who you can talk to. I'm not a professional, I'm no therapist, I'm not going to solve anyone's problems, but I can at least listen. For an actual professional, I invite you to listen to, follow, and or to subscribe to Healthy Gamer GG. He just finished a stream talking about this whole thing, and I think it's better than whatever smart-ass thing that I have to say, so check the description below for a link. 2020 has been a lot of things so far, but let me also remind you that we are all in this together. Please, please don't forget that. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.